Boa tarde novamente. Vamos então dar início a esta audição. I'm switch to English just to welcome to this commission, to this meeting. We will speak in Portuguese, but if you want, we can speak in English to explain something better, okay? And to start... Desculpem, tem a entidade 10 minutos para falar.
From me, from English to Portuguese, I don't think you probably don't need.
We don't need.
My translation.
Okay.
Use the mic. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and having us here and listen to the 21st century's the most atrocity of the century, basically. What's happening to my people today, as many of you may already know, we have millions of people are incarcerated in concentration camps, all innocent people not charged with any crimes, and then millions more are sent to the forced labor facilities and making China's active genocide as a profitable venture. Almost 1 million Uyghur children are taken from their families, sent to government-run orphanages, and the Uyghur women are facing forced sterilizations, forced abortions, forcibly inserting IUD devices inside of their bodies. The Chinese embassy used their official Twitter account last year and was very proud, and they tweeted and said, the Uyghur women are no longer baby-making machines after they forcibly sterilizing almost all the majority of the women who can bear a child. And also I saw the list of the people here that we have members from the party that protects not just the labor and the human rights and all that, but also animal rights. That remind me of something that PBS Frontline reported 2 years ago, April 2020. The name of the show is China Undercover. And when a reporter asks the Chinese official in Xinjiang province about those genocidal policies, when he was talking about what kind of procedures that they were implementing against the Uyghur people, when the reporter says, isn't that the violation of their rights? And the Chinese official giggles and says, what rights? The Uyghur people don't have any rights. So it's not a matter of violating it when they don't have any human rights. So that's the current situation right now. The genocide is not slowing down. Still, people are getting picked up and getting disappeared. My husband and I, we are the face of this genocide, actually. My husband's entire family, family of 24 people, my in-laws, 3 of my sister-in-laws and their husbands, my parents-in-laws and the 3 of my sister-in-laws, their husbands, and brother-in-law and his wife, 14 of their children from age 2, 3 years to like teenagers, 16, 17 years old. They all disappeared from summer of 2017. And when I spoke about that, when I talked about my in-laws' situation and the genocidal policies and the exposing the conditions of the concentration camps in one of the think tanks in Washington, D.C. on September 5th, 2018, 6 days after that, my first public speech, as an American citizen, I am living in America since 1989, and I am a US citizen since 1994. My own sister, a retired medical doctor, she was taken as a retaliation for my activism in America. More than 4 years now, I have absolutely no information on her whereabouts. I don't even know if she's still alive or not. She was 56 years old when she was taken. Today, she's 60 years old. At the beginning, when I was raising her case, carrying her picture every place I went, to Geneva, to Brussels, in front of the European Parliament, and the front of the Chinese embassy in DC, the Chinese Global Times Network, the official media, accused me for lying. They did actually official article on me, calling me Rushan Abbas, stole someone else's photo, claiming it's her missing relatives and spreading lies about China. That was December 19th, 2020, almost 15 months after they took her. Then, on a Christmas Day, 2020, actually the report was 2019, and then 2020, on Christmas Day, we heard from third party that she was sentenced for 20 years on terrorism-related charges. Look at her. She's a grandma, well-educated, very kind, generous person. She's not active politically or religiously, nothing. She's just an ordinary, law-binding citizen of China. And she's being sentenced for 20 years on a secret trial with no evidence, no proof of life, no information on her whereabouts, but sentenced on the terrorism-related charges. And then when we did the press conference in the Congress with a few lawmakers there, next day, Wang Wenbin, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, he just spelled out her name and said that she was sentenced accordance with Chinese law. So which one? Am I a liar, making her up, or is she a criminal? So this is the situation, and unfortunately, my husband and my story is not unique. Every single Uyghurs in diaspora, people are living in North America, or Australia, Japan, or Europe, everyone has one or more than a dozen family members are missing. So thank you so much, and we are here to hear any questions or concerns you have. We came to ask for your help because this is a humanity issue, and this is China's war on women and the children, and China's war on the free thought, original, any kind of original thought is a threat to the Chinese Communist regime, and it's also war on the freedom and the democracy. Thank you. And my husband wants to add a couple minutes.
First of all, thank you to receive us. Maybe we are the first Uyghur ever came to Lisbon, and you are receiving us. We are so grateful for your time. But be truth be told, this genocide related to people of Portugal, through former Prime Minister of Portugal and the current General Secretary of UN, Antonio Guterres. In his time, happening this genocide. Millions of children separated from their parents and educated in orphanage. Millions people are forced labor and work as a slaver, and many are disappeared. We are talking about more than 3 million people in concentration camps, but we are not talking about the people who are disappeared. And the Chinese Communist government took all the wealth and the property of the Uyghur people. They don't have, they put the intellectual, writers, scholars, businessmen, showmaster, anybody who is important in the community into the jail, and took our money, our wealth, and let us like an animal. And today, by the COVID-0 policy in China, there is so racism. While the Chinese Communist government is supplying Han-Chinese population with medicine, food, and etc., they are not giving for the Uyghurs food and the medicine supply, no access. Many are dying. Even we get, imagine in China is this surveillance is so massive, nobody can put anything out, but through this starvation genocide, we get pictures from the country. Thank you.
Muito obrigado. Thank you, Mrs. Rushan Abbas and Mr. Abdulhakim Idris, I think. So, tem agora a palavra os grupos parlamentares, 4 minutos para cada grupo parlamentar. Now we'll speak the members of the parliament. In the end, you have 10 minutes again, okay? Tem a palavra o Sr. Deputado Paulo Araújo Correia.
Obrigado, Sr. Presidente, senhoras e senhores deputados. Começo naturalmente por cumprimentar a Sra. Rushan Abbas e agradecer desde logo a disponibilidade para estar aqui hoje a partilhar a sua história, uma história pessoal difícil, marcada, que ficou aqui bem clara. Dizer-lhe também e dar-lhe nota daquilo que tem sido a posição do governo português, do Estado português, nas diversas instâncias internacionais, e dizer-lhe de forma muito clara que para nós, Grupo Parlamentar do Partido Socialista, e creio que para todos aqui nesta casa, os direitos humanos são mesmo a trave mestra do nosso Estado de Direito Democrático e a trave mestra de tudo aquilo que nós propugnamos e daquilo tudo que nós defendemos, que deve ser uma democracia evoluída. Dar-lhe apenas nota daquela que tem sido então a posição de Portugal e aquilo que tem sido feito e os passos que têm sido dados. A situação dos direitos humanos na China é seguida atentamente por Portugal, em face dos múltiplos alertas e relatórios internacionais de órgãos e peritos da ONU e de organizações não governamentais sobre a situação de direitos humanos em Hong Kong, no Tibete e no Xinjiang. Efetivamente, os Estados-membros têm manifestado sistematicamente a Pequim a sua preocupação relativamente a estas situações. Estas questões têm ainda sido recorrentemente abordadas nas agendas dos vários encontros entre a União Europeia e a República Popular da China, apelando-se a que a China cumpra as suas obrigações nacionais e internacionais de respeito, proteção e realização dos direitos humanos, designadamente no que respeita aos direitos de pessoas pertencentes a minorias, nomeadamente no Tibete e em Xinjiang. Acresce que, durante a presença portuguesa do Conselho da União Europeia, este tema conheceu desenvolvimentos relevantes, tendo a União Europeia adotado, como penso ser de vosso conhecimento, em 22 de março de 2021, ao abrigo do recente regime global contra violações de direitos humanos da União Europeia, medidas restritivas a 4 pessoas e uma entidade chinesa da província de Xinjiang. A preocupação com a situação de direitos humanos na China também tem suscitado, em diversas ocasiões, nos encontros bilaterais mantidos com representantes da República Popular da China, assim como nas competentes instâncias multilaterais, a preocupação do Estado português. Por fim, Portugal tem igualmente apelado, junto às autoridades chinesas, em defesa da adoção imediata de uma moratória no uso da pena da morte, bem como para a ratificação do Pacto Internacional sobre os Direitos Civis e Políticos e do Protocolo Opcional ao Pacto Internacional sobre os Direitos Económicos, Sociais e Culturais. Esta é, portanto, uma problemática à qual nós, enquanto o Grupo Parlamentar, nós, enquanto Governo, e creio que todos nesta casa estão muito atentos e continuaremos a acompanhar a evolução da situação, tentando assegurar que o cumprimento integral das obrigações nacionais e internacionais da China em matéria de proteção e realização dos direitos humanos.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Deputado. Tem agora a palavra o Sr. Deputado André Coelho Lima, do Partido Social Democrata. Sim.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Just one or two words previously to my exposition. It's going to be in Portuguese because Portuguese people who are watching this hearing, of course, need to understand what we are saying. But just to say that I was particularly shocked with one sentence that you used, that some public official said there are no human rights here. So the only sentence I want to share with you is that for us, for our party and for our country, there are human rights everywhere, all over the world. Even though not getting into specifics, I wanted you to know this before talking in Portuguese. Thank you. Agora em português, e tentando falar mais devagar para facilitar a tradução. Dizer que naturalmente que esta questão é acompanhada pelo Estado português e naturalmente também devo dizer que acompanhamos as palavras que foram agora ditas pelo Sr. Deputado do Partido Socialista. Aliás, queríamos transmitir que no que respeita a direito internacional, a cumprimento de regras de direitos humanos, os principais partidos e o país tem uma posição unívoca, tem uma posição de conjunto, não tem divergências. Ou seja, para nós, para Portugal, a defesa dos direitos humanos é uma prioridade, seja onde for. E aproveitando também a intervenção do Sr. Deputado do Partido Socialista, dar nota ou associar-me às informações que ele deu relativamente às iniciativas que Portugal tem já tido no que respeita à vossa, enfim, àquelas que são as vossas reivindicações e àquilo para que nos estão a apelar. Dizer, por último, que é fundamental dizer isto, que agradecer-vos terem vindo cá, agradecer-vos terem querido partilhar com o Parlamento português esta realidade, nem sempre tão acompanhada pelo dia-a-dia, pelo cotidiano de um país como o nosso, e, portanto, isto é relevante nessa medida, e fazer este compromisso de partidos democratas num país democrático, de, naturalmente, em todo o lado, não deixar de pugnar pela defesa dos direitos humanos. É esse o compromisso do Partido Social Democrata também para convosco. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Deputado. Tem agora a palavra a Sra. Deputada Patrícia Gil Vaz, da Iniciativa Liberal.
Obrigada, Sr. Coordenador. Hi. Nice to meet you. Para a Iniciativa Liberal é uma honra receber a Sra. Rushan Abbas, o seu marido e a sua comitiva, aqui nesta casa, que representa a democracia portuguesa. Aproveito também para a congratular e manifestar o nosso apoio nesta vossa luta pelos direitos humanos, laborais, políticos de todo o povo uigur, bem como expressar a nossa solidariedade com a situação que nos relatou, em particular a situação da sua irmã. Também ela é vítima das práticas arbitrárias e de detenção e encarceramento de membros desta comunidade. Desde 2014, que cerca de 1 milhão de uigures foram enviados para campos de reeducação, onde têm sido forçados a renunciar à sua religião e à sua consciência, sistematicamente violados, sujeitos à mais abjeta escravidão e torturados. Milhares de crianças foram separadas dos seus pais, das suas famílias, enviadas para internatos, para que se desliguem das suas raízes e declarem lealdade à ditadura totalitária do Partido Comunista Chinês. A violação dos mais básicos direitos humanos e políticos dos uigures tem sido objeto de atenção por parte da Iniciativa Liberal, que já na legislatura passada apresentou um projeto de resolução, uma recomendação ao Governo, solicitando, e passo a ler um dos parágrafos que constava nesta resolução, no âmbito da presidência portuguesa do Conselho da União Europeia, pedimos que o Governo português fizesse condicionar a finalização do acordo de investimentos com a China ao respeito pelos direitos humanos e laborais de todos os cidadãos naquele país, incluindo a libertação das minorias presas nos denominados campos de reeducação. Infelizmente, este projeto de resolução acabou por ser chumbado e rejeitado com os votos contra dos maiores partidos portugueses, bem como pelo voto contra do Partido Comunista Português, que continua a negar e a ignorar esta atrocidade. É por preconceito, também ele ideológico, contra uma comunidade e uma religião que o Partido Comunista Chinês, que clama pelo progressismo, oprime milhões de uigures dentro das suas fronteiras, pelas mesmas ideias que animam muitos identitários na Europa. A ideia que se pode retirar a voz, os direitos e a dignidade de comunidades inteiras, como a comunidade muçulmana, em nome da ideologia vigente ou do interesse nacional. Foi isso que levou à prisão da sua irmã, um ato de terrorismo e separatismo, duas acusações fáceis que não são mais nada do que areia atirada para os nossos olhos. No mais recente relatório das Nações Unidas sobre a matéria constam alegações de tortura, tratamentos médicos forçados e violência sexual contra muçulmanos. A detenção arbitrária e discriminatória de pessoas da maioria uigur pode constituir, sem dúvida, crimes contra a humanidade. É o que consta neste relatório. Não compreendemos como é que o governo português pode continuar a estreitar laços com este regime, tendo em abril defendido o reforço da cooperação com este país, que claramente, e está à vista de todos, continua a desrespeitar direitos humanos de minorias, apesar de se esforçar por negá-lo. Existem relatos de detenções arbitrárias, A Iniciativa Liberal deixa aqui o seu compromisso de que fará tudo o que estiver ao nosso alcance para combater esta realidade, manifestando a nossa absoluta intransigência contra regimes que não respeitam e, pior, que perseguem e punem o exercício das mais básicas liberdades, como a liberdade religiosa. Thank you.
Muito obrigado, Sra. Deputada. Tem agora a palavra a Sra. Deputada Inês de Sousa Real, do Pessoas, Animais e Natureza.
Obrigada, Sr. Presidente. Thank you so much for your presence. It is with great honor that we receive you all here today. Madam Rushan Abbas, Mr. Abdul Abram Hirich. Peço desculpa, não tinha visto. Não tinha visto, estavas desse lado. Peço desculpa. Mr. Abdul Hakim Hidris, Madam Hilisa Hotri, and Madam Georgina Felix. On behalf of the party People, Animals and Nature, I begin to welcome you and mention what great honor it is to receive. Allow me a particular word to Madam Rushan Abbas. It is a great inspiration and proud to see the defense that you are doing on behalf of the people of Uyghur against China atrocities, because it is forward to human rights that should be recognized everywhere. Taking advantage of your presence, we would like to share some information about the action that our party has taken forward in the defense of the Uyghur people and warn about the atrocities committed by China. In November 2019, we presented and managed to pass a vote of granting for the award of 2019 Sakharov Prize and condemning the systematic violations of the rights of the Uyghur minorities in China. Unfortunately, not only the political force joined us, we had the abstention of the Socialist Party, the Communist Party, they voted against. But in November 2019, we demanded again in this Parliament to take a position on the information provided by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists released worrying information about the internment centers of Xinjiang region that demonstrated that the Uyghur prisoners were there against their will. So this is a system of armed surveillance and cameras with blind spots. That's the information we also have, and with ideological education. And in democracy, in plain century 21, we can no longer allow this, and we believe that the international community has a duty also to express their concerns and express that they are not in favor of this kind of regimes. Also, in March 2021, PAN proposed that the Portuguese Parliament formally recognize the Uyghur people in China and are being subject to genocide. I believe that the recognition of this statement will be, it's important, independent of the country that does it. And also, we wanted Portugal to do that, what was done by the United States of America and the European Parliament, France, Sweden, Canada, the Neanderthals, and also the United Kingdom. We want the Portuguese Parliament not to stand still face of data that tells us that China and the Chinese authorities regularly and systematically submitted women from Muslim ethnic minorities and mostly Uyghurs to pregnancy, as we listened to you saying, and forcing them to intrauterine devices and other practices that you already told us. However, this position that we defended was rejected because the parliamentary majority did not vote in favor. But we denounce it, and we will be continuing to denounce these atrocities. There are two questions that we would like to pose, taking profit of your presence here. One is, in your opinion, if the Congressional Executive Commission on China presented a report showing that one of the components of the repressive system in Xinjiang internment centers is a system of forced labor carried on factories located in the centers themselves, in factories in the region and even in factories outside in the region. According to this report, the forced labor system has been used in the production of textiles, electronic products. Are you aware that the brands are doing something to avoid to use these disposals and trying to protect human rights? It would be very important also to understand in the commercial perspective what is being doing to respect the human rights. And once again, thank you so much for your presence.
Muito obrigado, Sra. Deputada. Tem agora a palavra a Sra. Deputada Joana Mortágua, do Bloco de Esquerda, a quem peço sinceras desculpas pelo lapso regimental, não lhe ter dado primeiro a palavra. Mas,
era só por confusão, porque eu sei que estar deste lado também não ajuda. Thank you. I represent the Left Bloc. It's one of the left-wing parties in the Parliament. I will speak in Portuguese, so everyone who wants to see this on TV can understand. O Bloco de Esquerda é um dos partidos que tem sempre votado a favor de todos os votos projetos e tem proposto também repúdios ao governo chinês e ao regime chinês pelos ataques aos direitos humanos. Fazemos sem dualidade de critérios. Temos sobre o povo uigur a mesma solidariedade e a mesma vontade de defesa dos direitos humanos que dedicamos ao povo da Palestina, do Sahara Ocidental, todos os povos e minorias que sofrem genocídio ou perseguição ou simplesmente lutam pelo direito à autodeterminação dos seus territórios. Fazemos-lo com muita convicção e, por isso, nos últimos 15 anos, houve 2 visitas de Estado à China, do Presidente da República português e do Governo, nas quais nós recusámos participar, da mesma forma como recusámos participar nas recepções oficiais aos presidentes chineses que vieram a Portugal, precisamente em protesto pelas violações de direitos humanos. É isso que continuaremos a fazer e esperamos que a sua presença aqui, a vossa presença aqui, que seja também importante para chegar não só aos partidos que já defendem estes direitos com tanta convicção, mas sobretudo aos partidos maiores que têm governado e que dirigem a política externa de Portugal. Obrigado.
Muito obrigado, Sra. Deputada. So, you have 10 minutes.
And thank you so much for all your very generous comments. And it seems like everybody is pretty much aware of what's happening. Also, the Chinese government is continuously lying and denying it. Just like at the beginning, when the concentration camps came to the picture with satellite imageries, they completely denied in United Nations and said that there's no such a thing. It's all lies. There's absolutely no such a thing. And then later they came back and said, oh yeah, we do have camps, but those are re-education camps. And then changed their narrative again 2 months later and said, oh, those are vocational training centers. So that's typical Chinese government. But it's not just we as the victims of families speaking here in front of you, but also there are 3 sets of Chinese government's own leaked documents out there that's available. So a country like Portugal, a democratic country, a member of the European Union, and we just saw your constitution that had the celebration of 200 years a couple of weeks ago. I'm very proud of a country like this, and we are here to have the opportunity to speak to you. But as the members of the parliament said here, this is a fundamental rights of human beings. It's the conscience of the humanity is being attacked and being tested in front of you. And the international community is failing the test because of the Chinese government's Chinese government's influence within the governments because of the money, power, and the trade threats and the previous deals. So now they are asking probably payback times for the governments to stay silent or take China's side. So please take the right side, not the China's side, the Chinese government's side, because genocide and the slavery is our red line, and that's what's happening in the 21st century on your watch. Every one of you will be responsible in the future when this goes down to the history. When your children and grandchildren ask you, so what did you do when you knew this was happening? And I hope that you will be able to proudly answer, I did my part. So this is the time that you need to take a part. The United Nations have a report now. They also went into the appeasement and watered down the words and took out the parts that really falls into the genocide. Still, they documented step by step the descriptions of the genocide in their own, the United Nations' own treaty on the Convention on the Crimes of Genocide. And they said it may constitute crimes against humanity. But there is a report there with the descriptions of all these crimes that's being committed. So the Chinese government no longer can deny, no longer can pressure the governments. So please be the right side, because there is no neutrality. Neutrality is complicit now with the genocide. So again, you know, I beg you, as the defenders of the human rights and the lawmakers of the democratic country, it's your turn to do something, take some tangible actions. There is a initiative being introduced 2 days ago at the United Nations. The US, UK, and Sweden, Norway, Finland, Canada, and a few other countries, they asked to have a debate in the Human Rights Council. Absurdly, after years of active genocide, after so many evidence being presented, we are still debating it, but still that's one step. Please at least support the debate, support this initiative so we can have that debate. Secondly, the slavery should not be happening today. But because, I think you asked me that question, according to SP, Australian Strategic Policy Institute, there are more than 100 world brand names using the Uyghur slaves for their supply chains. And every 1 out of 5 garments the garments made by cotton come from the cotton picked by Uyghur slaves that getting paid for nothing, and they cannot refuse to go to the field. They have to go as a free laborers. That's a modern day slavery. If you cannot refuse, if you cannot say that you know, you don't want to do this but do that, or you don't get paid for your work. So actually that power that China is having because of the Uyghur slaves' sweat and the tears is making China strong to manipulate and pressure and try to influence the governments to take their sides, the Muslim majority countries and the other countries, other developing countries. But Portugal doesn't need that today. Portugal can stand up for humanity, and Portugal can refuse to receive products made by slave labor. So in European Union, there is an import ban and the resolution being introduced. Please take a part. And it's against the European countries' values, against the Portugal people's values. We should not be using or having the goods made by slaves. All humanity is supposed to be the same. So please do whatever you can. Thank you. And I just want to add one more point, actually. When the politicians, lawmakers, world leaders, when they give up their conscience and when they take a side with the genocidal regime, when they do not do anything and stay silent, remember, they are not just giving up their freedom of speech or freedom of expression. Little by little, they are giving up their freedom and the democracy and the sovereignty of their countries, because that's what's at stake. The Chinese government is not just waging a war on Uyghurs and doing oppression in Tibet, or you saw what happened in Hong Kong and threatening Taiwan. No. The Chinese government calls last century as a century of humiliation, because Portugal was owning Macau, Great Britain was taking Hong Kong, that's Opium War and all that. But they have been preparing themselves for this century, and they call this century of retaliation. It's not retaliation against Uyghurs or Tibetans. It's retaliation against the West, against the democracy and the freedom, against the countries like Portugal, UK, US, everywhere. So what's at stake here is not just the future of the Uyghurs anymore. It's the freedom and the democracy and the world that we are leaving behind for our children and for our grandchildren. That's what's at stake. I heard recently someone is saying, when we are talking about the Putin's, Russia's war on Ukraine, he said, if we don't end the dictatorships will end us. And the Putin's war is a very great example of what happens when you continue to appease the dictatorship governments, when you know what they are doing. So please take a stance. Thank you.
Yes, 2 minutes, okay. You know, as a Uyghurs, we are here to ask your help. But same time, we want to help you to protect your sovereignty. Study this Uyghur case. You know how to deal with Chinese totalitarian Communist Party. Look at Tibet, look at Hong Kong. In China, the Christian Falun Gongs, many people disappeared. And this is for us to tell you, to warn you. They don't need to, occupy or colonize like before ships or tanks or plane. They just came with the smile, with the money. They corrupted the politicians, take over media, take over business, and they don't need put their money in the media. The company, they do business with China, they will put the money in the media, and you will lose your freedom of speech, dignity, social work. And we are, as Uyghur people, maybe from the face, from the tradition, from the emotion, we are very easily happy, easily angry. We are like Portugal people. If you look go in the Kashgar, you think you are one of them. I'm here going in the city, I think I'm one of the Portugal people, yeah? If the Chinese Communist government cannot tolerate me, my face, my skin, my belief, my look, they cannot let anybody else. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Muito obrigado. Damos por concluída esta reunião, agradecendo aos senhores deputados e particularmente à senhora Rushan Abbas. Thank you again. We are concluding this meeting. Thanks for the information that you brought here. Thanks to all delegation, Abdul Lakim Hidris, Inspector General of the World Uyghur Congress, Elisa Autry, I think Autry, Foreign Affairs Officer, and Georgina Felix, assessora política da Embaixada dos Estados Unidos. Let me say that this is a public meeting and is available in the Parliament website to everyone, okay? Thanks again.
Thank you.
Muito obrigado.